On May 17, 1990, 18-year-old Rhonda Sue Coleman was 2 weeks away from graduating Jeff Davis High School in Hazelhurst, Georgia. That night, part of the graduating class gathered to decorate a graduation banner to put up at school. After the banner decorating party, Rhonda and a few other students went to a nearby convenience store. Rhonda's friends would later tell police that a little after 10 p.m., Rhonda said she had to leave to get home to her 10:30 p.m. curfew. She said she was going to go through the nearby Hardee's drive-thru, then make the 3-mile drive home. That same night, one of Rhonda's classmates, Layla Marshall, couldn't make it to the banner decorating festivities because of her work schedule. When she got off work, she stopped at her boyfriend's house before driving home. Rhonda lived only 2 miles from Layla's house. Around 10:30 p.m., on her drive from her boyfriend's house to her own, she passed a car that was pulled over on a dirt road with its lights on. She quickly realized that the car belonged to Rhonda, and so she turned around to see if she was okay. When Layla got out of her car, she saw that Rhonda's car was still running, the lights were on, and that the driver's door was open. However, Rhonda was nowhere to be found. Layla turned off the engine and went back to her boyfriend's house to call police. She stated she and her boyfriend returned to the car to wait for the police. Meanwhile, Rhonda's parents, Milton and Gail Coleman, were worried about their daughter, who was now late for her curfew. Rhonda's dad, Milton, said his daughter was almost never late coming home, and if she was, she would always call ahead of time. Around 11 p.m., Milton decided to drive around to see if he could find Rhonda. After waiting for about 30 minutes at Rhonda's car with no sign of the police, Layla and her boyfriend went back to the boyfriend's house to call again, and then returned to Rhonda's car. Police arrived at Rhonda's car around 11:40 p.m., over an hour later. While out driving to look for Rhonda, her father Milton came across the police at the scene of Rhonda's car. Police found Rhonda's purse inside her car and found footprints leading from her car towards the tire tracks of another vehicle. The tire marks indicated that another vehicle, other than Layla's, had pulled over on the side of the road that night. 3 days later, on May 20, 1990, Rhonda's body was found by a hunter about 15 miles from where her car had been found. It was in a rural, wooded area in Montgomery County, Georgia, off a country road. Rhonda's body was fully clothed and she had been burned. Investigators explained Rhonda's cause of death is undetermined because of the state of her body, which made it difficult to find her exact cause of death. He said that everyone who saw Rhonda on her last night alive is a person of interest, but no arrests have been made in the case. Rhonda was planning to attend Georgia Southern University to become a pediatric nurse. Her parents received her honorary diploma at Jeff Davis High School just 2 weeks after she was found. As of today, this case remains unsolved. Joshua Scott Adams was born on August 8, 1987. He was athletic and enjoyed fishing and riding four-wheelers and lived in Jackson County, Georgia. He worked with his father and brother with the family business. On May 20, 2013, 25-year-old Joshua left home in his white 2009 Chevrolet Malibu, and later that day, he cashed a check for $400 that he had stolen from his parents. Hours later, his car was found abandoned in a pasture next to a pond where he often fished on his family's land on Brockton Loop Road. His cell phone, wallet, ID, and $25 in cash were inside the car along with the keys. The next day, his shoes were found on the banks of the pond, a few hundred yards from where the car had been found. Police searched the area with cadaver dogs and even drained the lake, but found no other evidence. His cell phone records showed that he called the same man 5 times on the day of his disappearance. However, the man denied having spoken to him and refused to cooperate with the investigation. Another man admitted to speaking to Josh at 9 a.m., but he would not say what their conversation was about. 2 weeks before he went missing, Joshua completed a 6-week drug rehabilitation program in Battle Creek, Michigan. His family stated he had no history of leaving home without warning, and they think he may have started using drugs again prior to his disappearance. Investigators have interviewed numerous people about Josh's case. Sadly, not long after Joshua's disappearance, his mother passed away, and Josh's sister Shannon says that a broken heart led to that. There have been many rumors circulating this case and is being investigated as a homicide, but as of today, this case remains unsolved. Hannah Truelove was found deceased on August 24, 2012, when she was only 16 years old. When her mother, Mona Harris, returned home from work on August 23, 2012, she noticed her daughter was not there. Mona saw mail tossed on the couch, which meant Hannah was home at some point. They lived in apartments that were gated on Dawsonville Highway in Gainesville, Georgia. She didn't think much of this and decided to take a nap. When she awoke a while later, her daughter still wasn't home and panic began to ensue. She then called her ex-husband and Hannah's father, Jeff Truelove, and asked if she was with him. Jeff informed her she wasn't, and so Mona started to call Hannah's friends, but they hadn't seen her either. She would then contact the Hall County Police Department and report her daughter missing. Hannah was last seen with friends in the common area of the Lake Lanier Club apartments around 7:30 p.m. on the 23rd, where she and her mother lived. Law enforcement would begin searching the area around the apartments, but a major storm was on its way, forcing them to end the search early. The storm would drop 3 inches of rain that night. The next day, on August 24, 2012, a man walking his dog would find her body behind the Lake Lanier Club apartments in a heavily wooded area about a quarter-mile from her apartment. Due to the rain, the night Hannah disappeared, her body had been submerged in water for a period of time, and so a lot of trace evidence and blood evidence were washed away. The results from the autopsy were withheld from the public, but they did state that she had been stabbed multiple times. A witness told investigators that the night of Hannah's disappearance, a silver car with 3 unidentified male teens had pulled into the apartment complex. A male subject exited the vehicle and walked around a tree line out of sight of the witness. When the male subject returned about 10 minutes later, Hannah was seen walking about 10 to 15 steps behind the teen. The witness saw them walk across the parking lot and behind a building near the area where she was found dead. While that teen remains a person of interest, witnesses saw her alive after that, so it is very unlikely she was murdered at that time. Another silver car was seen in the area with a man in it, and the GBI put out a statement that they were looking for a 1990s to early 2000s 4-door Chevrolet or Dodge, possibly light silver in color with front end damage. As of today, this person has never been identified. Her father would tell the police that a fellow student at Hannah's school had been harassing her, and she was scared to ride the school bus. Her father believes the student may have threatened her in the past. Some people believe her Twitter account might have held some possible clues because on August 12, 2012, she tweeted, "I got me an ugly ass stalker." And on August 18th, she tweeted, "So scared right now." And on August 19th, she tweeted, "Every time we talk, I feel sick." It is not clear who the tweets were directed at, but investigators feel it was just Hannah venting on Twitter and there was never a legitimate threat. Even though investigators had many possible leads to start, the case has run cold and as of today remains unsolved. Timothy James Guy was born August 8, 1968, and was nicknamed Tim. He moved to Forsyth County, Georgia from his family's home in Snellville, Georgia, shortly before he disappeared in February 1987 at the age of 18. Tim is described as a naive person with a mild learning disability. He worked as a stable hand and also lived at the Sleepy Fox Farm, a horse ranch in Forsyth County, about 25 miles from his family's home. The farm has since been demolished and built over with a residential establishment. His fellow workers last saw Tim at approximately 9:30 p.m. on February 6 as he was preparing to return to his parents' home in Snellville for the weekend. According to the head foreman at the farm, Philip Klinger, he was accompanied by an unidentified white male known only as Jeff. Philip said Jeff and Tim entered the vehicle and drove away, and they were never seen again. Philip is described as a tyrant. He has an extensive criminal history, but has since passed away. Tim's family stated that he never arrived in Snellville the previous weekend and filed a missing persons report with authorities. It is strongly believed that Jeff never existed and that Philip made up the story. Not long after Tim disappeared, a man named Tom stated he had found out that Tim was killed and his body put in a tree shredder and his remains were dumped into the Chattahoochee River. Many people believe that Philip murdered Tim and made up the story about the man named Jeff. Philip's daughter, Dawn, has sent many Facebook messages bragging about her father killing him. She has made several statements that Tim will never be found. It is reported that the farm was a cover-up for drug activity and that Tim may have witnessed illegal activity on the farm and was murdered as a result. Tim's father was watching the farm after he disappeared and witnessed Philip walking away from 2 rock crushers located a half a mile from the farm. His family just wants his body so they can lay him to rest, but sadly, as of today, this case remains unsolved. On October 22, 1997, Levi Frady arrived home from school on the school bus around 3:30 p.m. He then called his mother, Marilyn, at work and told her he was going to a friend's house. His mother told him to be back home by 6:30 p.m. Levi got on his red bicycle with his backpack on and started the less than a mile journey to his friend's house. Once he was there, he and his friend rode their bikes over to another boy's home where they jumped on the trampoline. But they had to leave because the boy was going to dinner with his family, and so Levi and his friend rode over to another boy's home, and Levi went in to use their phone. Levi called home at 6:38 p.m. His mother was in the bathtub, and so his twin sister Lacey answered the phone. It had already gotten dark outside, and Levi was scared to come home, but his sister told him his mother wanted him straight home, so Levi did as he was told. He would leave his friend's house about 6:45 p.m., but he decided to take a different path home. Levi was scared of some dogs on his normal route on Picklesheimer Road and decided to go down Little Mill Road to avoid them. Little Mill Road is a well-traveled road between Highway 306 and 369. Around 6:50 p.m., a resident in the area reported seeing him pedaling away with a small black dog following close behind him. A few minutes later, a woman drove past a man between 35 and 60 years old with grayish-black or brown hair that appeared scraggly and unkempt. The woman was lost and attempted to ask the man for directions. Strangely, the man did not respond to her and quickly walked off into the woods. By 7 p.m., his mother got very worried and called the friend's house to find out what happened to Levi, but they never answered. Marilyn and Lacey then left home in search of Levi. They returned home and continued making phone calls to Levi's friends, searching for answers. At 2 a.m. the next morning, his mom once again left to go search for Levi. Around 7 a.m., his bicycle was seen by residents heading to work, but they did not think much of it. During this time, Levi's grandfather and other relatives were out looking for him as well. They found his bicycle in a ditch and brought it back to his house. At this point, around 8 a.m., his mother reported him missing to Forsyth County Sheriff's Office. Law enforcement would begin their search around the Little Mill Road area where Levi was last seen, but turned up nothing. Sadly, 6 hours after Levi was reported missing, his body was found by hunters partially submerged in a water-filled ditch in the Dawson Forest Game Management Area in Dawson County, over 20 miles from where he was last seen. An autopsy revealed that Levi had been shot 3 times. Residents helped the police draw up composite sketches of 2 possible witnesses. One sketch was of the man walking along Little Mill Road. The second sketch was from the hunter from Dawson Forest that was interviewed that night and gave a description of a man dressed in a dress shirt and attire, which seemed out of place in Dawson Forest. He also gave a description of a small blue Toyota truck with a white camper shell seen in the area close to the crime scene around 10 a.m. that morning. The case has gone cold over the years, but investigators with the GBI say leads keep coming in and they have received a number of tips. Investigators say there was no sexual assault, no robbery, and no apparent motive other than the suspect may have had intentions of a sexual assault but was unable to for whatever reason. The only thing good to come out of this case was the creation of Levi's Call for Missing Children, Georgia's version of the Amber Alert, in honor of Levi Frady. It was designed to inform the public quickly when a confirmed abduction has occurred. No suspects have ever been arrested in Levi's case, and as of today, it remains unsolved.